back, everybody, to another episode of Extra Time. The three of us, the crew, back together. We've done a couple solos or like two people each. 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, the three of us together, which means we get to pick up where we left off, which is where I want to start. But first, just to set up the show, we're going to catch up on the week. We got to give Adam some time that we totally cut from him last week about career highlights. Didn't give him much time with that. We've got to talk about the Celtics championship win. Yes, I know that happened last week, but the parade more recently. And we're just going to compare stories because we've covered sports in different cities. So we'll talk about that. And I think, Jahmai, you said this is already a meme, but we have a photo of you that I love that you don't like so much, but we'll be showing that to the fans for sure.
I'm glad you love it. I'm glad you love it. I'm glad Adam loves it even more because he loved it so much he decided to post it on Twitter.
Okay. Yes, I did. I couldn't resist, man. It was perfect. I had to take advantage of the opportunity.
Adam,
that just means
you know what? No, go ahead. It's all right. I'll save my shots for later in the show.
Exactly. Now you have a chance. You're going to be looking for someone to get him back with, right? So now you've got that chance.
Exactly. So I'm going to hold off, but I got you, man. Just know, right here. Mental note. Come on.
Fair enough, man. Hey, listen, I'm up 2-0 on you. I took that giant cookie earlier in the year. Cookie Monster, and then this one right here, it was just, oh man, we'll show it.
He is, yeah. I just keep feeding them material, I guess. I mean, people love it, so it's all good.
All right, well, we'll show the photo later, but first, Jahmai, you and I, gift of the gab, to say, and Adam, obviously being a broadcaster too. Adam, a little bit more polite and considerate, I think, of his time. Me and you, we just love to talk, tell our story. So we had this question that we were all supposed to answer and say, what were our career highlights? You went on forever. I went on forever. I interrupted you to add more to that. And then last week, we're like, hey, Adam, anyway, we've got 10 seconds left. What are your career highlights? The poor guy had to just basically list them off, like 1, 2, 3. So Adam, I want to start by giving you the mic back. If you wanted to, you don't have to go crazy, but you didn't really have a chance to talk about your career highlights covering what you covered. Give us your top 3.
Yeah, no big deal. I've only been in the market for all 13 championships in this century and whatever, I've been working in this industry for like 2 decades, but that's fine. No, you guys go ahead. No, I'm just kidding. I loved hearing what you guys had to say, obviously, but yeah, I didn't get to dive into it as much as I would have liked just because we ran out of time. But I'll go back all the way to 2001 before I actually was covering sports in this town because I was a senior in college during the Patriots' first Super Bowl. And I told this story the other day on Boston's Entered the Chat about how that was the first rolling rally that we had in Boston. Duck boats weren't a thing when they won championships back in the 80s and earlier, obviously. They weren't in existence. Duck boats didn't come into the picture until like the mid-90s. So back in 2001, the Patriots had won their first Super Bowl. I was a senior in college. It was mayhem. They had a rally at City Hall after the parade was over, and everybody around me was partying, having a great time. I'm a senior in college, right? You would think that I'm like imbibing, enjoying the moment, but no, I couldn't because I had baseball practice afterwards because we were getting into our college season. We had conditioning practice, and me and my teammates are there like missing out on like that part of the festivities, which was kind of stinky, but whatever. But in terms of like covering it, like 2004 was unbelievable because the fact that, they hadn't won in 86 years, breaking the curse, the way they came back against the Yankees. There were over 3 million people in that parade. I was one of them. It was unreal. And it was also the only time that they went in the water with the duck boats, like on the Charles. Like the footage from that was just incredible. And then, I'd have to say in terms of, being special, like 2013 was really special because of what happened in the city of Boston that year with the marathon bombings and how everybody sort of rallied around sports teams at the time in Boston, especially the Red Sox team that took their run all the way into October. And I remember covering that parade. I was actually on what was called Yawkey Way at the time, Jersey Street now, of course, with Rob Bradford and the late great Nick Cafardo, who we miss dearly, and he was part of the coverage as well. And we were talking over the parade, as you do, right? Like, oh, there's the Jared Saltalamacchia who had the walk-off hit in game 2 of the ALC, right? Like that kind of thing. And then they get to the finish line at the marathon finish line, Copley Square, and they stop. And this was sort of unprecedented, right? Stopping in the middle of the parade, and they take the World Series trophy and they put it on the finish line, and they drape the 617 Boston Strong jersey that they had been hanging in the dugout since the marathon bombings. It's something that they brought with them on the road, something that they had at Fenway Park. They were hanging it in the dugout, and they draped that. It was Johnny Gomes and I believe Salty as well. What a powerful moment that was, man. Like, sort of like one of those times as a broadcaster where you just stop talking and you just let the moment sort of speak for itself. And that was something that was so powerful and so special. And I look back at that fondly as a great memory and a great tribute, to the lives that were lost, the people that were injured, and the entire city of Boston. That was just such a unique situation. So those are the memories that I had that I wanted to get into a little bit more last week. But thank you, Soph and Jahmai, for letting me share that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
duh.
was
You ran out of
fantastic.
time. We talked too much.
I mean,
Go, Jahmai. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I was just sitting back in a rocking chair for story time there. That was amazing. I mean, now I see what it's like on the other end. When you're such deep into another story. That was great.
Well,
Oh,
thank you
honestly,
both. But yeah, I appreciate it.
you mentioned, and I feel like I should transition to this recent Celtics win, but I'll go here first. You mentioned like, hey, Soph, Jahmai, you guys have been part of, Soph in your short time, been part of some championships here in Boston. And that's untrue. This is the first one. When I came, everyone started losing. So
Wow.
yeah, this is the first one in my
Really?
time.
I thought you were here for the Patriot. You weren't here for the Patriots 2018 season. They won in 2019. No,
No,
because you started in
no, I
2019. I
came
thought.
2019, which was obviously the
She started
year
that.
that the Bruins lost to St. Louis. I came in the like after that June.
That's
So after
right.
that June,
That's
I came in
right.
Oh, it was
August. So I didn't even do
afterwards.
that run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Makes
okay.
sense
Yeah.
now.
So
I
There
I
you
remember
go.
now.
yeah. And the funny thing is, two funny things to go with that. One, when I was in Toronto as a budding broadcaster, I remember one of my audition tapes was something I made myself. It wasn't like a broadcast at a desk or whatever. I had asked the camera guy, "Can you come with me? Can we shoot something? I'm going to put it together." And it was in Toronto, but it was all about Boston. And was 13 or 14 years ago, of how this is just the city of champions. And even if you're not getting championships, it was about how the city of Boston always makes it to the final or a conference final. Like every year they're competing and giving their fans something to cheer for. And I know that hasn't always been true. Obviously, I'm aware of the curse and so on and so forth. But at the time that I was making it, it's still not on air, I don't think. Or I had maybe, one or two quick 15-second hits on air, but I was trying to make it more. I made this whole demo about the city of Boston, which I don't think I could find if I tried. But funny that, I'm here now. And the last thing I'll say is, sure enough, I'm here in Boston, finally get to witness a championship, but nope. I'm back home in Toronto visiting my family. So I missed the celebration and I missed the parade. So technically I missed it anyway. Didn't get to participate. A little peeved about that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I can at least say that matter of fact, now that you mention it, actually, I've only been a part of one parade. Like I've seen multiple championships, I guess now, because now that the Celtics won, but I saw more heartbreak than anything because I saw the Bruins lose to the Blues in Game 7 there, so that was tough. And then um, the Celtics' most recent one is the latest championship. So 2018, obviously, the Red Sox going all the way, winning 100 plus games. I was a part of that parade, so that was the first time I got to experience it. But it certainly was not 3 million people there. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but it was still an incredible experience. And we were like, I was on Boylston, and like I'm trying to think, how far down I was. I was almost by the state capitol, so um, near the Cheers bar there, but on the opposite side of the street. So that's the location that I was, and seeing all the tugboats pass by was pretty cool, and like just being part of it, seeing the tape fall from the skies, and obviously being a team that you cover, that made it that more special because you got a chance to see the entire journey from start to finish. So that was pretty incredible. But that was my only parade. That was my only parade that I went
Wow.
to because obviously we were out of town on this latest road trip in Toronto when the Celtics happened. So um, maybe there'll be another one at some time soon. Maybe this year. Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? Knowing Boston,
How
it'll
does it
happen soon.
how does it compare? Like, all right, so like the Raptors won a title, the Blue Jays won in the early 90s. The Maple Leafs haven't won in 57 years, I think
67.
now.
Yep.
67, is that what it is?
So since
1967, right?
1960, yeah, yeah.
1967, but that is 57. Yeah, okay. So um so were you in Toronto when the Raptors won, Soph, then?
So, yeah.
Mm,
So basically, I was in Toronto for the beginning of the postseason and saw the first two rounds, and then I had already accepted the job to Nesson, and so I knew I was leaving Toronto, and I was a freelance journalist at the time, so I could decide not to work or work. And obviously, when you're freelancing, you're actually taking every job you possibly can because you don't own the next one's coming. But once I'd signed that contract, I thought to myself, like, this is going to be the last time I'm going to have a chance to just take off and travel. And so I decided to book, I think mid-May, I booked for a month and a half, almost two, a trip to Europe. And that's what I was going to go do because in July, I had a whole month in Korea booked for my final freelance gig. And so I'm like, okay, I accepted the job at Nesson. I'm going. So I planned this. Sure enough, the Raptors keep winning. And I'm like, I can't be away when the Raptors win. Like if they win, I can't do this. Like I was a big Raptors fan, big Toronto sports fan growing up. So this was huge for us. And I started to be in Europe and just like not be in the moment. I was like watching every game, trying to get updates on my phone. Every time they won in advance, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to cut my trip short. So I did actually. I cut it like 3 weeks short and
Wow.
I flew home because I needed to
wow.
be there for the final. And I made it, I think the day before game 6, which I think they won in 6. I should know that. But yeah, they won in 6. And I made it for the final game, like jet lag, went to my friend's house to watch it, and then was part of the celebration. And it's something that in hindsight, I don't regret doing. Like 3 more weeks in Europe would have been nice, but I don't think I ever would have forgiven myself for like watching this team. It was the year they got Kawhi Leonard, as you know, and I don't know how much you guys were following that story, but it was like the one
Yeah, of
window,
course.
can we get it done? And sure enough, they did. And I was like, I don't think this is happening in the near future. For me, I had no idea I'd come to Boston and like fall in love with the city and start to become, a Boston sports fan. But that was something that I cut short, and it was awesome. The parade to me was great and that was fun, but it was more the party after the win, like in the streets. That was such a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
wow.
remember.
Hey, that's dedication, Jahmai. Right?
I
Like,
mean,
can you imagine cutting your European vacation short by 3 weeks
3
to go
weeks.
back? That's legit.
I
I
mean
hats
that's
off to you, Soph.
yeah, seriously. I mean, I tip my cap to that. That's some ultimate fandom. And now that you say that, I actually recall you sliding up one of the light poles. Some classic video of you
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
Toronto.
yeah, yeah,
sure.
So
yeah.
Yep.
Guys,
celebrating
I
that
wasn't
Raptors
even
title.
like I wasn't even living in Europe anymore. I was glued to my phone and the result. And I was like, I'm not even having fun. Like I'm in the middle of France and I was like pissed in Paris. I was like, oh my God, I'm missing this. I just had to go. I was like, I'm not in the moment. I gotta go. And yeah,
Pissed in
Paris
Paris.
will
That
be
could be
there.
the name of
Yeah,
like a docu-series or something on
yeah. Or you,
Sophia's travels in Europe.
or your next band. Who knows? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
what a
my next
flex!
band.
What a
Pissed in
I
flex!
Paris.
love it.
But
Oh, that's
really
so
quick, because I want
funny.
to throw it to you guys about other championships. Jahmai covered one outside of Boston, but um, you mentioned the Blue Jays. So 92, 93, back-to-back World Series. I was 6. I was 6 and 7 when they won. So I don't remember much, but that I believe is the defining moment of when I became a big sports fan. And I always grew up watching hockey. Like there's video of me as like a toddler with a soother in my mouth just watching the game with my dad. So there's that. But the first memory I have of really like feeling the emotion was the Blue Jays, and it had nothing to do with them. I'm like biggest daddy's girl ever, and I, like, you guys know I talk about him all the time. He's my best friend in the world. And I just remember looking at him, and he was like a hardworking man, 3 jobs, didn't relax a lot, didn't go out with the boys to watch a game. It was his one reprieve from like stress from work and home, was to sit and watch a game once in a while, whenever he had the time. And a lot of kids running around. And I remember obviously the whole city getting behind this. So I can't even remember the TV. I just remember kind of like on the couch looking at him, and he didn't scream, didn't jump, but he had like the biggest smile on his face. And he was like just so content and just kind of like gave me this big hug, didn't say much, but he didn't need to say it. And I felt this like immense joy pouring out of him. And I think that's when I fell in love with this. I was like, this is such an awesome feeling. And it, brought our family, the whole family was watching closer. But as someone who admired my dad so much, I remember how happy he was. And that emotion kind of is what people fall in love with sports. It's not just the technicalities, right? And that is a defining moment of like when I became a sports fan, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
go ahead, Jahmai.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, that's when you're really connected to the game, when you get that disappointment, and it takes like months to kind of wear off before you forget about the result that happened with your team. So I've been feeling that since as long as I can remember. It feels like in the teams that I grew up cheering for and watching. But I covered that. It was Super Bowl 50. When I was in Denver, I was still working in Denver at the time before I came to Boston, and the Denver Broncos played the Carolina Panthers at Levi Stadium for that one. And Peyton Manning, it was his last ride, So I think they beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship that year, if I recall, and the game was in Denver, which
Yes, I
was a
recall
difficult
that
place for
too.
them to play. Yeah. So, and it was the Broncos had this elite defense, and still, the Patriots, they had a tough first half, if I remember correctly. I think Gronk caught a late touchdown in the end zone, and they had another opportunity to come back, but it just fell the Broncos' way that game. And I remember the Showtime or whoever does the NFL Films thing, they had a conversation with Peyton Manning and Bill Belichick, and he was like, "Hey, this could be my last ride. This is a pleasure." And they had that little meeting at the center of the field, but Broncos went to win a title, and it was great because it had been like 17 years. They had gone back to back. I think it was 98, 99. John Elway had won
Correct. Yep.
titles for the Broncos. It was back to back seasons. People felt like Terrell Davis retired early. Obviously, that was John Elway's last year. So it'd been a while before they had a championship in Denver. The Rockies made it to the World Series. They lost to the Red Sox, but no championships to speak of up until that point. I mean, more recent history with the Nuggets, obviously, last year's world champs weren't able to defend their title, but this was a pretty big deal because they had the quarterback, they had the elite defense, and then they were going up against the league MVP and Cam Newton, who was having a out of this world year. So uh, being at that parade was pretty amazing. I think there was 1 million plus. It might have been more. I don't know the numbers on that as well, but it was a sea of orange and blue, and it seemed like everybody was out there. And I just remember being in the middle of the street and like doing live shots for all day for our newscast, and it was just crazy, seeing the Super Bowl trophy come down like that. Because and I'd like to get you guys' thoughts on this too. I just Which titles are celebrated more, if any, because it's like you got the iconic Larry O'Brien, you got the iconic Vince Lombardi trophy. The World Series trophy is I mean, I think it's starting to get its own type of symbolism, but then the Stanley Cup is its own level of icon, right? So I'm curious. By the way, the Avalanche won. I should have said that. The Avalanche did win earlier. I guess maybe that was the '90s too. Maybe the early 2000s. I can't recall.
Well, that was
But
yeah. Well, the reason that's significant around here is because it was Ray Bork,
Ray
and
Bork.
they actually had a rally here in Boston
that's
for
right.
Ray
That's right.
Bork, which people in Boston were
It's
like,
crazy.
"Huh?" But I get that. I understand that because you want to celebrate Ray Bork because of all the years he put in with the Bruins and not able to
Yeah.
win a cup here. Celebrate the man winning the cup. Of
And
course, that's
people showed
special.
up,
But
right?
oh
Lots of
yeah, of
people
course,
showed up
yeah,
too.
sure,
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But that's a highly debated topic. It
Oh
A
was at
yeah.
funny
the
one.
time for sure. I can tell you that. Yeah.
I
But
feel
yeah, I
like
mean, it
no,
was big.
so
No, go
sorry,
ahead.
Jahmai,
So
go
go
ahead. I was
ahead.
going to answer your question with like the iconic
Yeah.
trophies, but yeah, I feel like that part's a difficult one for me to answer, but I'm going to add one which I've experienced as a Canadian hockey fan, not to rub it in, but gold medal in your country when like a team wins a gold medal. For us, I don't know. I guess I wonder what it would have been like the United States being so much bigger and than Canada in terms of population. Plus, the hockey markets are kind of spread out, whereas like hockey is everywhere across Canada. So I cannot put into words the whole country went wild when Canada won gold in Vancouver against Team USA. They tied like Team USA, I think it was Zach Parise, tied it up with a minute and a half left into overtime. They go and Sidney Crosby, who was like the golden boy of Canada anyway, scores to win. And I'm telling you, not parts of Canada, not little pockets, like the entire country stopped and partied. And it was the wildest experience ever. And as I was about to tell this story to you guys, I was thinking, oh, they can probably understand what I'm talking about. But I don't think all of America, all of the United States would stop and pause if the men's US hockey team wins gold, right? I think that's the cultural difference. I don't know if there is a sport. Would it be soccer? Would it be basketball? But Olympic gold, where the whole country rallies behind, that's very true for Canada.
That's a great
Yeah. I mean,
question, actually, that you
it
present.
is a great question. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that there would obviously be, um, a great joy and pride in the country and people would rally around it. It's a good question. I mean, look, when I was a kid, the dream team was assembled, right? In 1992 in
Yeah.
basketball with Jordan Bird, Magic, like that whole cast, which was the
All the
hype
greats.
surrounding that was just incredible. And then, before that, like, you obviously go back to 1980 Miracle on Ice. It wasn't even the gold medal game, right? Where the United States upset Russia, but like the fact remains that was, that's an iconic moment because of the underdog aspect of it for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, and we're so locked in, like, me being a local guy in New England, we're so locked in on our own teams. There are other markets in the country, and Jahmai, you can speak to this for sure, that celebrate their college teams more than they do their pro
Yeah.
sports teams, right? In Boston,
Yeah.
it just isn't like that here because of the success that the pro sports teams have had over the years, even before the turn of the century, right? We've had unprecedented success here in Boston with our teams here in the 21st century, but the Celtics had won 16 titles before the turn of the century. The
Yeah.
Patriots had never won. The Red Sox, where people would live and die with each game over the course of 162, and the Bruins, the same way, over 82 games. And so I think we're just so consumed by the pro sports teams here in New England that anything outside of that it just isn't celebrated as much.
Yeah, and yeah, that's one thing I had to get used to moving to the Northeast, moving to Boston specifically, was the fact that the college teams really aren't as widely heralded as other places that I've lived. I mean, essentially every other place that I've lived, every other market that I've worked in, college sports have been highly acclaimed. So I mean, obviously growing up in California, definitely college football, college basketball, UCLA, USC, Los Angeles, and those teams. And then moving to Hawaii, or sorry, before that, I went to Texas. And I mean, it really needs no explanation. You think about Texas football from the high school level all the way up. and even their other collegiate sports. So then when I went to Hawaii, that was like the focus because there's no professional sports teams. I mean, they'd have like, training camp with the Clippers or Lakers coming down. The Pro Bowl used to be there consistently, other All-Star games. But University of Hawaii was the main ticket. So then going to Denver, you have Colorado State, and all these other teams, and people pay attention to those. And working, and then Adam probably can understand this to a degree, but your markets in local news have been in the Northeast, so maybe not as much, but there'd be times where your local sportscast, which you get 3 to 5 minutes, maybe on the weekends you get 5 minutes, maybe more, you have more time, and it'd be loaded with professional sports, and you get emails from viewers and phone calls like, why didn't you guys put this CU score in, or where's your stuff, or where's your Texas? It's like, dude, I got 3 minutes, bro. I'm doing the most important that's going to be the most appealing to my audience, so I can only do so much with what I have, but you try to sneak as much as you can. But used to always get those critiques. In Boston, not so much. People are like, hey, what's up with my sock? What's up with the Sox, kid? The Pats, the C's. You know what I mean?
Man.
So
I would get that
much
in
different.
Portland. I worked in Portland, Maine. That was my first on-air job. And Portland, Maine, even though geographically is 2 hours from Boston and we do cover the Boston teams, our focus is local sports. In fact, NASCAR is big up there. Local racing circuits are big up there. High school sports are big up there. So I understand that what you're saying, Jahmai, is like people would email, be like, hey, how come we haven't had, the boys soccer team highlights on in a while? You know what I mean? Like to that degree, so I get that. College sports up there are even, like the smaller schools, right? Like the Division II, Division III schools, we'd cover them as well. UMaine's the biggest school, but so I hear that. I do. Even though I've been in the Northeast and covered Boston sports my entire career, I got a little of that in Portland too, for sure.
It's funny because in Canada, like I always talk about moving from Toronto to Boston. I just did the drive yesterday. It's not that far. It's a 9-hour drive. They're both kind of Northeast cities. You don't think there'd be that much of a culture shock, and there really isn't like a shock, but a couple of cultural differences, healthcare being one of them, but this is not a political show, so I won't get into that. But one of the biggest things I noticed, which like I didn't have an appreciation for, and I definitely did not have an understanding for, is how much money and how much weight is put behind college and even high school sports, depending on like smaller markets or down south too, like high school baseball and stuff like that. I cannot overemphasize that in Canada, or at least in Toronto, I shouldn't say all of Canada, but Toronto being one of the only cities in all of Canada that has, or actually the only city that has, NBA, MLB, and an NHL team. We do not talk about high school sports. We do not cover college or university teams unless something like crazy happens that goes viral internationally. We're not talking about that. And it's seen as a broadcaster who's trying to climb the ladder, so to speak. If you're covering a university team, like you're a rookie, you're a beginner, that is a place for you to learn. Whereas here, I thought, like as a Canadian, I thought, oh, if I'm a college football broadcaster, that's like a level below being a major league sport broadcaster. But that is so not true, obviously, learning that now, given the attention. But the money and the attention to college sports like blows my mind compared to what it's like in Canada.
Yeah.
I don't know if more than 100 people would show up in a market like Toronto. Smaller markets for sure, but not in a market like Toronto. And it was a culture shock for sure. And last thing, like back to high school, how it starts early on, like how in some of these markets you're getting sold out arenas and sold out stadiums for high school sports. It's crazy to me, but cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
yeah, good point. Yeah, really well said. Well said. Yeah, that was good.
Moving on. Well, no, listen, I did. Never mind.
I mean, I I thought we did that topic great justice. I feel like you put a great bow on it, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was good stuff.
Me
I mean,
too. Me too.
Thanks,
I mean,
guys.
look, I mean, I
Thanks.
don't like to just hear myself talk. Like, I mean, if you wrapped
yeah,
it up and
exactly.
summed it up, I'm not gonna say it. Good job.
I was like,
All right,
I
all
support
right.
you.
nothing more to add.
It's a good take.
We'll move on. We'll move on because I did want to ask. Yeah,
Very good take.
maybe Carolyn can cut that.
No,
we'll
no.
Nope,
That
nope.
was
It
gold,
lives
Jerry.
forever.
Gold.
That was fantastic.
No, guys. So Jahmai and I met last week in Toronto, had a quick lunch. And when I say quick, it was very quick because he had work to
Yeah,
do.
never
He had
enough
to pick
time.
up his luggage. Remember that? So I met him at the
Oh my
airport.
gosh.
Who picked up the
Met him at
tab?
the airport. No
Actually,
comment.
we split it down the middle.
Oh,
I think. I
okay.
think I
All right.
offered, actually. I did offer. I did offer to
Yeah,
pick
you
it
did.
up. I
You
was
did.
like, you know what? I come to your city. I'll take care of this. This one's on me. And being the INDEPENDT independent woman she is, she denied my opportunity to bless us and have a good meal. So it is what it
No,
is.
you know what? That was very nice of you offering. I felt I don't know. I always feel bad when people offer me things. That's again psychology. We can get into that another day. But it was really nice to
Yeah, we
see
got to dive
Jahmai.
into a few things.
We do. But hold on. Before we talk about lunch, because we can
Extra
talk
time.
about us running around at the city, like all these places since I've moved have been closed. Jemai's looking for one place, I'm looking for another. But what I really want to discuss, and we can get to that later, is something that shocked me because I don't do this when I travel. I drop off Jahmai with his new luggage. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go valet the car. You go to your room, do what you need to do, like meet me in 2 minutes. And he's like, 2 minutes? I gotta unpack. And I'm like, unpack? I never unpack because we are in the city like so quickly, Adam, right? With the Bruins. It's like I open my luggage, I take everything I need. I try not to disturb anything. And I hate living out of a suitcase. But Jemai's like 30 minutes later, like ironing things, hanging things up, folding things, putting them away. And of course, that's because he's there for a couple days. So I wanted to ask you, Adam, do you unpack or not?
Hell no. No way.
Right?
The only
Well,
time I unpacked actually was during the postseason in Toronto because we were there for like 5 nights and it was
Right.
weird. I'm like, oh man, like I gotta like unpack and like iron stuff and like hang up my sport coats and all that stuff because like I would actually strategically pack my suitcase if we were going on a road trip 3, 4 cities, whatever, I would put the stuff that I'd need on top and take that out and leave the other stuff in the suitcase that I wouldn't need. So that way I wouldn't have to dig through my suitcase looking for stuff I wanted to wear. It was like, all right, like this is what I'm going to wear in Colorado. I'm going to have that there. All right. What's the weather look like? All right. This is like my casual like stuff. I'll put that there and only unpack certain things strategically. So that way, like I wouldn't like, disturb any of the stuff that I knew I was going to wear like later. So yeah, man, I don't unpack at all. Like it's way different in baseball because you're in the city for like 3-4 days. And, so I understand why Jahmai's got to take the time and unpack because you're wearing like different stuff every day.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the reasoning behind it in a nutshell. But if it's multiple cities, like sometimes it's a 3-city trip, that's a pretty long road trip, or this one was a 2-city trip. Even then, like I also take that same strategy where I'm like, all right, this left side this is Toronto's clothes, this right side, this is Cincinnati's. That way I don't have to disturb that area because I've placed it so much in a position where if I do, it'll take me entirely way too long to get it back right again. I think the hardest part for me is packing. The unpacking and then repacking when I'm already on the trip is good because these are my clothes, this is the supply, I know it all can fit and just I have to come up with the creative Tetris type of way to get all my shoes in there, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's because I'm in a city for like 3 days, sometimes 4, and if I didn't unpack, I feel like it'd be a lot more chaotic for me, and my life would
Yeah.
be I'd be living a very anxious life. So unpacking makes me feel like all right, I'm home and I can relax. I know what I'm wearing. I don't have to think about it. And I have those 3 outfits for the 3 games, and then I move on to the next city. I'm packing up like the circus.
Jemai, I'm telling you, I think if you did like a month or two in the NHL, like with the NHL schedule, and we talked about this already, like the Red Sox, the difference is you're working every day, and we get breaks with the Bruins. The Bruins, it's quick, quick, quick. But the hardest thing is, baseball summer, so weather is generally pretty good everywhere you go. Like we've done road trips where you're in Montreal and Ottawa, so freezing in Canada, mid-February, and then go fly down to do Tampa and Florida. And I don't know, the NHL, has its rhyme and reasoning for how they do things, but I've definitely done a Montreal to Tampa trip. So I'm packing like long johns for Montreal because it's colder than it is in Boston, and then shorts for Florida. So like that part's mentally like, what? Like it's so and people always look at me like, why is your luggage so big? The guys wear a suit. It's not like they can wear shorts to the game. They wear a suit, no matter whatever weather it is. For me, I'm like flip-flops, snow boots in the same luggage. It's confusing. I don't think you'd like it that much. Trust me.
Yeah, well, I mean, early on in the season, there's some of that, and I mean, I think it was the Mark Twain quote was the coldest summer I had in San Francisco. So it's some of those times where you're going to a West Coast city where it's early in the season, Oakland, San Francisco, where you get the Bay Area. At night it gets cool, which what we had this year, we were in Oakland. So early on in the season is probably the most difficult time. At the end of the season also is most difficult because it's the fall and it's beginning to start to see that weather pattern change. So right now it's like pretty consistent. No matter where I'm going, I'm wearing a polo shirt and I'm good. So that's pretty cool. But I can see how that like you know, the schizophrenic weather, like wherever city you're going is kind of crazy, up and downs. That'd be difficult, especially for me because I got to bring the big jacket. And I've learned over the years to prepare for the weather. I mean, I'm a West Coast guy, so like I don't know what a Northeast winter is like. I think I
Right.
moved to Denver with one pea coat, and it's like not a winter coat, not a big winter jacket. I had nothing. It wasn't until the last couple of years that I finally wised up and I was able to like actually, dress appropriately when I'm out in the elements. So I still get cold, I still freeze, and it's always my lower extremities, my feet and my hands. So I probably need to have more iron in my diet, but another topic for another extra time, maybe.
Dude, you went from Hawaii to Denver.
Yeah, I
Is
had
that
one winter
accurate?
coat. That is
Oh
correct.
man,
Yes.
what a like shock to the system, man. Like
Yeah.
going from paradise to like Denver.
Yeah.
I mean, Denver's a great city, but in terms of the weather and like everything else,
Yeah. I
like
mean,
completely different.
it's probably the most frequently asked question that I get, and especially when I first moved there, why I got people are like, "Oh, where'd you come from?" I'm like, "I came from Hawaii. I was living on Oahu." And they're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, I mean, obviously, I
It's a
try
bigger
to,
market. It's a bigger market.
exactly. It's a bigger market. I'm trying to, rise and elevate in my career and have some upward mobility and, go as far as I can with this thing. So that's obvious. If Hawaii was the number one market in the world, I would have never left. Had I been older,
We
too.
never
Had
would
I been
know Jahmai
older,
Webster.
yeah, yeah. I mean, had I been older in my career, had I been older, like I mean, had I been even like 50 years old, I probably would still be there. It's just that I was in my mid 20s and I had one other job before that, so I was in one other market and I was just starting to advance my career. And at that point, I mean, I spent 4 years there, which was the longest. You know how it is early in your career, guys. You're a place for like 2 years, three max maybe. And a lot of times, sometimes it's even 1 year. Like you're jumping market to market, you're going to these places because you're just rising the ladder. So to spend 4 years there, my second job felt like an eternity. But I mean, I grew so much
Yeah.
personally, professionally. It was just, I mean, it was a great situation for me. So that's why I stuck around there so much. And the fact that it was in paradise. I mean, I was living on an island in the middle of the Pacific. It was not bad at
Do,
all. A lot of
do
people,
you
had
and
to be in like North Dakota or something. No
do you and
disparaging our North Dakota listeners.
Joanna, I know like you've got a long career ahead of you, but do you guys ever talk about in your 50s or 60s if you're like reaching retirement or whatever? Do you ever talk about going back there?
Yeah, if I get to a point where I'm like Bob Costas or like Al Michaels, and I kind of pick and choose my shot, and I can live wherever I want, I'd make my home base there for sure.
Yeah.
It's because I mean, it was just, I felt like my life was a lot more stress free. It was just like you wake up and the weather's beautiful. It changes, your mood, and you're always getting sun, which is great for you. You need that, right? It's why there was no, I forget, the seasonal depression that we get here in the Northeast. So there was none of that because it's always sunny. And obviously there's so much outdoor stuff to do. Like the ocean is a beautiful place, if you can dive in it. That's why I always feel like I need to live closer to water. So even now, I'm a
Yeah.
South Shore guy now. So I'm over
Yeah.
here as close
Green.
to the water as I can be. But you know, I would I would definitely go back there if I could, and I can still, work big events and
Well,
have the job.
if you weren't here, I'd be very sad that I didn't meet you in my life for many reasons,
Oh,
including Adam. Moments that Adam gets to take advantage and take for grant or take advantage of your face, let's so to speak. Let's show the photo. If it wasn't for you, Adam wouldn't have this content. So Adam, give us the
Oh
story.
man.
yeah, please, Adam.
So all right. So I had just I believe I had just finished recording one of our Nesson podcasts. I think it might have been either Foxborough Rush or Boston's entered the chat, and I said, you know what? I'm going to take the opportunity to watch the Red Sox game tonight from my couch with my dog because my wife and daughter they took a trip up to Storyland over a couple of days and had a pretty good time. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit back, kick back, watch the Red Sox game. And I see, it was the night that Brian Bayo had pitched. And,
Yeah.
they showed a replay of Bayo spiking a baseball, not happy, right? And part of that replay was Jahmai's reaction, which you see on your screen right now. He found the camera and went, oh. So I looked at that and I rewound it and I freeze framed it and I took a nice little picture of it on my phone because I'm like, I got to come up with something for this reaction, man. So I'm racking my brain. I'm like, all right, maybe I'd be like, all right, when Jaron Duran extends his hit streak to 10 game, no, that's not good enough. And I'm going through and I'm like, I got it. And so I'm laughing as I'm typing it out and I post it. And the post is when the medium meal just doesn't sit right. There you go.
Nice.
Perfect.
He made me a
And
meme for the
so,
second time this season.
yeah, and the first time was when Jahmai was at Fenway in the camera well, just crushing the biggest cookie I've ever seen in my life. And so I took that and I split screen it and I put Jahmai eating the cookie, and then I put Cookie Monster's head on Jahmai eating the cookie, and that's all. No caption necessary.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was
I think
nom
people
nom.
understood.
That was nom nom.
Yeah, it was nom nom. Yeah, nom nom. Very cute.
Adam,
So
you've definitely got away with Twitter, whereas I feel like you've got you're you, but it's a little bit of a spicier personality on Twitter, and I like it.
Yeah, I'm a little spicy pels.
well, you know what? I think if we were giving out awards, it's AP and it's Lenny DiNardo. I mean, two of the most active, creative voices at the network on social media. So, I mean, Lenny's going for his Oscar with these award-winning skits that he's putting together. If you haven't seen those, and then obviously, Adam's taking part in those too. But I mean,
well, have you
I'm
seen what Lenny has done to me? Now, you guys got to check out next Red Sox win. Go to Lenny's Twitter account, and now he's posting. So I did. We talked about it. I did the Savannah Bananas at Fenway, right? And I taped an episode of Nesson Clubhouse kid show that we do, right? And as part of that, their dance choreographer Maceo, who's awesome, showed Jaden and I some dance moves, and so that was posted on social media. And Lenny took a part where I'm going like this. And made that a GIF. Yeah. So that's every time Red Sox win that gets posted. So I feel you, Jahmai. See, I'm being used, for content as well. I want you to know that.
Yeah, but
I think it's flattering.
Yeah, it is. Only when it's because Adam, it's okay. I know his heart is in the right place. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, and I can I can accept it.
Well, my friends, it's time to wrap, and I will be off for a couple weeks. Wow. So I think it's just you two for the next bit. Going back, officially booking my vacation, but whatever. We don't talk about it. Going back home. I'll miss you guys, and I'll come back in a couple weeks. But this was fun, and to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Extra Time. Bye, guys.
Well, me and Adam will see you next week. Sophia, maybe not so much.
Oh, I'll be gone. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.